back to this week's Neumann Update. I'm Alexis Lomax. It appears as though we're in for a tough fall and winter, and no, I'm not talking about the weather. Around 1 p.m. this afternoon, the latest coronavirus update was made, advising many that the U.S. has now surpassed 8 million COVID-19 cases and is averaging more than 50,000 new infections reported daily. Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's top infectious disease expert, and other public health officials have warned the country should try to lower daily cases to prepare for new challenges. Those include the flu season, which could create what doctors call a twindemic with COVID-19, as well as temptations to hold more gatherings indoors as temperatures drop, including during the holidays. An updated forecast from the University of Washington's Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation Projects, the U.S. could reach more than 389,000 total COVID-19 deaths by February 1st. More than 217,000 people have already lost their lives to the virus in the U.S. Vice President Biden's campaign team has halted travel plans for his running mate, California Senator Kamala Harris, through this weekend, after a flight crew member and Harris Communications Director Liz Allen tested positive for coronavirus. While Harris was not in what the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention defines as close contact with either person, the two were with Harris on a flight on October 8th, the day after her debate with Vice President Mike Pence. Masks and social distancing were both in practice during the flight, and records do show that before and after the flight, both Allen and the flight crew members tested negative, in addition to all the other members on the flight. Harris did take 2 PCR tests for coronavirus since October 8th, including a test on Wednesday, and has tested negative, which was confirmed by Biden's campaign manager, Jill O'Malley Dillon. Biden's campaign team has begun the process of contact tracing to notify everyone who came in contact with the individuals during the infectious window. Kamala Harris is set to return back to campaign traveling on Monday. To bring things closer to Neumann and relatively local, a new police commissioner was named for the police department in Chester. Deputy Commissioner Stephen Gretsky was administered to oath by Mayor Thaddeus Kirkland to resume the new role he has taken as the city's new police commissioner. Gretsky's ranking rose to deputy commissioner back in January after the former police chief, James Nolan, left to lead the Delaware County Criminal Investigation Division. Gretsky will now replace former Commissioner Otis Blair, who recently retired last month. Addressing his first priority as the new police commissioner, Gretsky explained his concentration on bridging the gap between police departments and community. Talking to those present at his oath, Gretsky said, "You can have a great police department, you can have great police officers, but you can't get anything done without the community support. It's very tough to get those things done." On the path to reach his goal, Gretsky is also working on strengthening the Operation Safe Street program, which was launched in partnership with the County District Attorney's Office back in June. The program is intended to utilize supervisors and officers, putting them in hot spots around the city, scoping out different areas and making the community members feel more at peace, and to go back to having officers on foot patrol. With the current gap widening between the police department and the communities basically everywhere, it goes without saying that more needs to be done to bridge the gap between citizens and the police department so that everyone can feel safe within their own communities. Shifting gears to Neumann community, the homecoming celebrations have been in full swing. Every day this week there has been something to do for students to take part in, whether it be in person or virtually. And from the outside perspective, we make homecoming week look relatively easy, but it wouldn't happen if it weren't for the collaborations of many different offices and our peers. So a big thank you goes to those in student government, student engagement and leadership, and the Knights Programming Board for making homecoming feel so special. Don't forget that tomorrow is a drive-in movie that will take place in the parking lot behind the Bruder Life Center at 7 p.m. And on Sunday, the virtual bingo party continues at 8:30 p.m. Now let's switch gears to Rhea for our weather update. Oh, sports update, I'm sorry.
Well, thanks, Lexi. The City of Philadelphia has agreed to allow a limited number of fans in the Link for this Sunday's game against the Ravens. The Lincoln Financial Field has an ultimate capacity of more than 69,000 occupants. As of now, a maximum of 7,500 people will be permitted on game days. This number considers fans, players, referees, as well as support staff workers. Ticket sales began Wednesday. For more information on how to claim your ticket, head over to philadelphiaeagles.com/tickets. Well, speaking of the Eagles, let's talk about that game last Sunday. For the first time this season, Wentz looked accurate as a passer and extremely confident as he continues to gel with Travis Fulgham. While we are seeing some improvement from this team, there still are too many mistakes being made on the defensive line, which ultimately cost them the game against the Steelers. The Eagles' defense allowed a season high of 38 points to the Steelers. That's the most since last year against the Vikings. With just over 3 minutes remaining in the fourth, Jake Elliott missed a 57-yard field goal that would have put the Birds up 32-31, winning the game. However, I have high hopes that this team has resilience and now a boost from fan presence to win over the Ravens this Sunday. Just over a week ago, Zade Wisdom and Tyson Forrester heard their names called by the Philadelphia Flyers in the first and fourth round of the 2020 NHL Draft. Now, both prospects have signed entry-level contracts with the club just this past week. Forrester, the 18-year-old Canadian, spent the 2019-20 campaign with the Barrie Colts of the OHL, racking up 36 goals and 44 helpers in 62 contests. The 6'2" forward was considered to have one of the best shots in this year's draft class. Wisdom, the recipient of the 2020 E.J. Maguire Award of Excellence, which is presented annually by the NHL to a candidate who best exemplifies commitment to excellence in athleticism. His 2019-20 totals marked a huge leap in production over his rookie campaign in 2018, including a 26-goal and 49-point improvement over his first-year totals, where he had 10 points in 60 games. Both Forrester and Wisdom have the skill sets to develop into valuable assets for the Flyers, but it may be a few years before we see them making a contribution at the NHL level. Teams across Major League Baseball have been making cuts in the front office and elsewhere across the league, and they likely will continue in the coming days and weeks. The Philadelphia Phillies are in fact one such team, and on Wednesday, longtime radio host Jim Jackson announced that the team had let him go, claiming that he was a luxury the organization can no longer afford in such uncertain times. Jackson joined the Phillies prior to the 2007 season, hosting pre- and post-game radio shows on the Phillies radio network. Unfortunately, Jackson isn't the first broadcaster the Phillies have shed over the last couple of months. In August, dugout reporter Greg Murphy was also let go by the NBC RSNs. We're a little over a month away from the 2020 NBA Draft as the Sixers continue to analyze who would give them the best fit to add to their roster. Some recent mock drafts consider the Sixers' 21st pick to accommodate some big names. At the same time, the organization is working to reload their coaching staff under Doc Rivers. On Wednesday, it was announced that former Grizzlies Kings head coach Dave Joerger has been hired by the Sixers for the assistant coach position. Joerger is known for being a great defensive-minded coach, which will be a valuable asset for the Sixers, who have a ton of defensive talent on their current roster. Now let's kick it over to Amaris, giving us a new movie review on this week's Critic Corner.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Critics Corner. The weather seems to be quite settled around this time of the year, but the horror story is on. This week, I had the chance to take a look at the Netflix original film 1922, which was adapted by the remarkable novel by the one and only Stephen King. And let me tell you, it was quite something. This gritty, eerie film follows the story of a rancher named Wilfred who maliciously murders his wife with the aid of his teenage son for financial gain and to prevent his wife from selling the family farm. Now, I could go on and on about how Wilfred's relationship with his son starts to shatter and talk about the scene when Wilfred starts to hallucinate his dead wife with rats at her feet, but that would totally spoil the surprise on what happens after the murder. Honestly, although I will say everything that happens to the husband he pretty much deserves, although I much for the teenage son, I kind of feel bad for the boy. Now, normally I praise the writers for even taking a chance setting up a gory approach, but the gore doesn't really make up for the lack of investment into the story itself. The film does have a pretty slow yet interesting start. However, once the murder happens, it doesn't really get much more enticing than that. Other than that, the film is nothing more than a slow-paced, eerie classic film that tests the waters with its script's adaptation. I personally rate this film overall a 7 out of 10, only because there was so much potential for the writers to go more in depth with the story rather than just set up a quick murder scheme and a gruesome execution. Still, I consider this a generous score because the writers do have some potential. I don't know if they were trying to follow along the lines of the original story by Stephen King, but they could have done more with expanding the plot of the story. My name is Amaris Manning, and this has been Critics Corner for the Neumann Update.
How do you cope with stress? Do you meditate, read, or maybe even sleep? Cow hugging has become the latest sensation to the ever-growing pandemic to reduce stress, lower anxiety, and increase positivity. Hugging cows are a mutual exchange of happiness for both parties. We become relaxed by being next to the cow's warmer body and hearing their heartbeat, which increases oxytocin, the social bonding hormone in our bodies. Cows are benefited by this change in that they show signs of pleasure and relaxation when people rub, massage, or pet them. These stress-free sessions can last up to 3 hours, but like us humans, some cows are less sociable than others and may walk away mid-session. Take a look at this picture. Does this look like a UFO to you? Well, that's what hundreds of New Jersey residents believed when they saw this unidentified flying object jet past their homes, where they believed that aliens were paying a special visit to their suburban town. Cars were stopped on major highways just to get a glimpse of the silver saucer. The good news is that posting a video of this once-in-a-lifetime sighting has gained over 4 million views in less than 24 hours as the sighting spread over social media. The bad news? They had mistaken the flying saucer for what was a Goodyear blimp. A representative did confirm that the company had flown the blimp over New York City and New Jersey that evening. In other news, let's get right into tech talk. If you are a horrendous speller, you are in luck because in the coming months, Google searches will be launching brand new AI tools to decipher your spelling along with other grammatical improvements during its Search On event. 15% of Google searches daily are ones that they have never seen before and is a big part of why we have so many misspelled searches. 1 in 10 searches are misspelled, according to Kathy Edwards, Vice President of Engineering at Google. As a result, Google will be introducing a new spelling algorithm with 680 million parameters for even better suggestions for misspelled words. Additionally, the company will also be diving deeper searches into subtopics to provide better results. And now, let's check in with Amanda for this week's On a Positive Note.
Thanks, James. It's hard not to be happy during this time of year, especially when we're celebrating homecoming. But in case this week has you tired out, how about we re-energize that smile before this weekend's fun activities? How many of you love Halloween and its decorations? Well, one lady in Flowertown, PA, named Deirdre Finnegan, has been helping her community get in the holiday spirit while sharing her musical and artistic talents. Deirdre, who mostly works in theater, has decided to redirect her creativity in this time while her theater is closed to Mosh Posh faux pumpkins to decorate her house and sell to her neighbors. As the word of her cute pumpkin spread throughout her neighborhood and community, people have been making multiple trips to Deirdre's house to talk to her, buy more of her pumpkins, and help one another keep going during this crazy time. Now, my question for you is, are you using your creativity to spread joy and maybe even the Halloween spirit on campus? And for those of you who may not be huge Halloween fans but love Star Wars, you will love this next story. A 10-year-old boy named Alex has been recently welcomed home with the forces in his favor after a 2-week stay in the ICU. After suffering from migraines for 6 months, Alex was admitted to CHOP and diagnosed with a benign brain tumor and had to undergo 4 separate brain operations. To celebrate his homecoming and his belated birthday, when he came home from the hospital, he was welcomed with a huge Star Wars parade celebration. While this young Star Wars fan has a long road ahead of him in terms of recovery, he is just happy to be home. Wow, I don't know about you, but it sounds like this young Star Wars fan truly has the positive forces on his side. And speaking of well-deserved celebrations, Detective Sergeant Thomas Longo recently received an emotional ceremony with his whole town to commemorate his 33 years of service and sacrifices with the police department. Detective Sergeant Longo was so appreciative and overwhelmed by the love and support his community showed for his service as they did a vehicle procession that wound through many towns that ended at the Plymouth Township Police Department, where he was presented with numerous honors such as the Patriot Award for exceptional service and dedication to his duties. Longo was also viewed as a hero by his 3 sons for both his work with the department and his 3 battles with cancer. Detective Sergeant Longo fought back tears as he signed off for the final time and was thanked for his years of service by the Montgomery County Police Department. Anyone who has ever heard the final sign-off for a police officer or EMT knows how emotional that ceremony is. Longo was also honored by placing his picture on the Wall of Honor. While looking forward to enjoying his retirement, Detective Sergeant Longo says he will surely miss his police force after 33 years. Wow, I think we can all appreciate Detective Sergeant Longo for his commitment to serve. And I'd like to challenge you, my fellow knights, to thank members who serve our community when you see them for all their dedication so they don't have to wait until their retirement to know that they are appreciated. And that is everything for this week's On a Positive Note. I'm Amanda DeCarlos, and now we're going to head over to Rhea for this week's look at what Mother Nature has in store for us.
Thank you, Amanda. Well, we have a big cool down for your weekend beginning tonight with a low of 57 degrees with some on and off rain throughout the evening. That rain begins to fade out as we get some breezy, cool, and bright sunshine for your Saturday. Sunday looks like it's going to be perfect football weather for the birds, with the overall high rounding out to 65 degrees and sunny skies. Monday, the sun sticks around along with a comfortable temperature of 65. Tuesday, we're warming back up to 71 and partly sunny skies. Lastly, Wednesday gets even warmer, climbing up to 73 and some beautiful, mild, sunny skies. After tonight, that sun is here to stay for a while, so get out, soak it all up, and enjoy your weekend. Back to you, Alexis.
You know, Rhea, I was really not happy about the rain today. I'm not a big fan, but it makes it worth it seeing that next week it's going to make up for it.
Well, you know what they say, Lex, you have to have the bad days to love the good ones even more.
You're right, and we'll have to talk more about the weather later. But looking ahead, if you're interested in ice hockey, don't forget that there's a virtual interest meeting on Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Also, the flu shot clinic will take place on campus the 27th and 28th, provided by the Health Service Office in partnership with Walgreens. On Tuesday, the clinic will be in the Bruder Gym, and on Wednesday in the Beata Atrium. That's all for this week's Neumann Update. I'm Alexis Lomax.